What secrets lie beneath the sands of Qubbet el Hawa? In this exclusive interview, Dr. Alejandro Jiménez Serrano takes us deep into one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in Aswan. Discover how ancient tombs, cutting-edge research, and university teaching come together in a unique project led by the University of Jaén. Don't miss it! Hello everyone and welcome to this new episode of Science Factory. Our guest today is Dr. Alejandro Jiménez Serrano. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as you said, I'm Alejandro Jiménez Serrano. I'm professor of Egyptology and Near Eastern archaeology in the University of Jaén. I'm also the head of the project in Qubbet el Hawa, the Old Kingdom and Middle Kingdom necropolis in front of modern city of Aswan. And I studied in Spain and also in the UK, concretely in the University College London, where I got my specialization in Egyptian archaeology.
And why did you choose to study Egyptology? Why this career?
Well, it's a long story that, as in the cases of many Egyptologists, began when I was a child. And I saw the movie of the Ten Commandments, and I wonder, who is this bald guy that is Ramesses II? And who was Ramesses II? And then I began to read books, here I am.
Okay, so it was not Indiana Jones, it was not The
No.
Mummy, it was a much older movie.
More sophisticated movie.
Okay. So you said you were the head of the project Qubbet el Hawa. You've been leading excavations at Qubbet el Hawa since 2008. For those less familiar with this project, could you briefly describe where the site is located and why it is so important archaeologically?
Well, the site is in front of the modern city of Aswan. It's a hill that has more or less 100 discovered tomb or catalog tomb. Probably there are or many more. And it is important basically not only because it's a pharaonic necropolis that still has many tombs that have not been discovered, but also it has the largest quantity of biographical texts in a non-royal cemetery in Egypt. So it gives us a wide perspective about the relationship between Egypt and Lower Nubia during the end of the Old Kingdom and the Middle Kingdom.
Okay, and what kind of individuals were buried at Qubbet el Hawa? And what do their tombs tell us about provincial elites during Old and Middle Kingdom?
Well, basically, in Qubbet el Hawa was created as a elite necropolis during the late Old Kingdom. And it was the burial ground of these local nobles until the end of the Middle Kingdom. After those periods, the necropolis was reoccupied by other individuals that had nothing in common with the earlier nobles, officials. So we have almost a whole vision of the history of Egypt since the late Old Kingdom till the Greco-Roman period.
And over the years, your team has made several extraordinary discoveries. Could you highlight one or two findings that you believe have significantly changed our understanding of ancient Egypt?
Since the beginning, we tried to develop our project from a modern perspective, not focus only on the inscriptions or in the material culture that we are also interested on, but also in how it was used, about the integration of the tombs in the funerary landscape. And under my point of view, well, this is like your children who loves, who is the child that you love more. It's impossible to say, but perhaps the most interesting thing is the tombs of the high officials of the 12th dynasty that we discover and touch.
I can imagine. How is that feeling? It must be amazing.
It is amazing, but overall, it's a great responsibility. We had the opportunity to locate at least 10 of these intact burials, and you don't want to miss any kind of detail. Do not forget or do not miss anything. And one of the curious things of these discoveries is that the coffins, the chamber still smell to wood. So it was amazing. Sometimes I was looking for the camera. This was put yesterday and someone is trying to get me, but it was not nice. It's amazing.
But how is a discovery like this made? I mean, because for the public of Science Factory, and it's not like we see in the movies,
No,
right?
no, no.
It's not a sudden discovery because you're working in the area for a long time, you're opening spaces, you're digging different areas. So can you describe a little bit how the process is?
Well, sometimes it's accidental, the discovery, but the majority of the times we know that we are going to find something great. Basically, because if we are excavating shafts, the shafts still contain the original filling with rubble and stones. And if you don't see any kind of material, just rubble and stones, you know that this is going to be intact. And well, it is a bit exciting, but also, as I told you, is in these moments you have to be very, very concentrated in your work for not to miss any kind of detail.
You are anticipating that you're going to make a big discovery or something intact. In the movies, sometimes, as you were saying, it can be something accidental, but sometimes you can also anticipate. And I think that is also interesting, not only the accidental discovery, which is amazing, but also the one that you are able to anticipate. And beyond the monumental tombs, what other types of material culture are being studied at the site? Are there any aspects related to daily life, administration, or intercultural contact?
Well, one of the things that I was looking for when I began this project was to trying to find a connection between the neighbors, the lower Nubians, and the Egyptian elite. Unfortunately, we found just one pot from Nubian origin. So basically, they considered themselves Egyptians and they buried them as Egyptians. So unfortunately, we did not find any kind of mix or melting pot about Egypt and Nubia. We have been excavating also in the a dumping area beside the medieval or Byzantine monastery. So we can find many material culture related to how was the life of the monks during the 6th and 7th centuries AD. But in reality, about the pharaonic period, we have found basically a funerary material culture.
How is your team approaching the conservation and documentation of the tombs and their contents? Are digital tools or 3D technologies part of your methodology?
We are using everything. Well, since the mechanical conservation and restorations to the new technologies, scanning, photogrammetry, digital photography, but also we do artistic drawings. So everything that that we can use to record the past or the context, we use it.
I think I'm going to ask you further questions about that later. You recently led a new campaign at Qubbet el Hawa. What were the main goals of this season and what preliminary results can you share with us?
We almost finished the Middle Kingdom tombs, the 12th dynasty tombs, it was our major goal during the last 16 seasons. Our next step is going to the excavation of the small graves dated to the first intermediate period. The problem or the characteristic of these tombs is that many of them were reused or reoccupied during the late period, 26, 27 dynasties. So it's giving us two different pictures dated to the first intermediate period. We do not have much information about the material culture, funerary material culture in this area. And also we are trying to reconstruct the life conditions during the late period that we do not have much information about this. So these are two of the main lines. And also we are going to finish, inshallah, the excavation of the shaft in the funerary complex of Sarmput I, who was the first governor of the 12th dynasty 4,000 years ago, that were never excavated and never recorded. And one of the major questions that we want to answer is to know who was the people who was buried in this funerary complex. What is clear is that in Sarmput's and other governors' funerary complex, the closest circle to the governor was the people who was buried there, but we have other shafts that were constructed later. So who were these guys? They were part of the funerary priest of Sarmput I, were members of other later generations related to Sarmput I. So it's something that we will try to answer during the next season.
And the project has involved scholars and students from different countries. What role does international collaboration play in your fieldwork, and what have been the benefits or challenges?
Well, as I used to say, we are doing a scientific work, and to me, the science has no flag. So I do not care if someone is Spanish or French or Italian or whatever. The most important thing is that this scholar can do his work the best. So this is the main idea. And what I like also is to mix, let's say, scholars with a long career with recently graduated students that are going to make their PhD thesis about the material that we are discovering. And this mix of youth and senior, I think that is an interesting mix from the experience to the passion.
Now I want to talk about your research and publications. Your book, Descendants of a Lesser God, explores the political role of provincial elites. How has your fieldwork at Qubbet el Hawa informed this research?
Well, I began to think on writing this book without the intention to write it. Basically, it began because we used to receive the visit of colleagues to the site, and you have to explain. We need to understand the site. And I have to confess that the first 5 years working there, when I visited Qubbet el Hawa, or I was working there, I just saw several tombs, but I have no idea how they were organized. And there is an organization, or at least I'm trying to explain the organization. And apart from that, the most important thing was to write a book about the history of Egypt, not from the royal palace perspective, but from non-royal context, the periphery. As you know, my hometown, where I live, where I teach, we are in the periphery of Spain, so we do not feel less important than the people who lives in the capital. And I think that we are also giving our experience to the rest of the country as it happened in ancient Egypt.
Well, I have to say that indeed I am from Granada and you are from Jaén, but the city or a little town? Did you say?
No, town, from the town.
Jaén. Okay.
So we are neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny to be speaking in English. Thank you very much for that. How does this site contribute to our understanding of Egypt's relationship with Nubia during the Old and Middle Kingdoms?
I think that the most important information that Qubbet el Hawa offers to this are basically the biographical inscriptions. Since as many of the people who is seeing this interview, they know that in Nubia, there was not a local writing until the first millennium before the Common Era. And we know very well the material culture, the Nubian material culture. So imagine that we have from Egyptian text, the names, the social organization of the people who was living in a territory that had no writing. And it is very important. Also, we have the first pieces of evidence of the texts that are telling us about the contacts between Egypt, the pharaonic Egypt, and the interior of Africa. What kind of products were the Egyptians interested in? Why they traveled there? How they traveled? How long took them to achieve their goals? So it is very important. And from the material culture, let's say that the most important thing that we have discovered in Qubbet el Hawa is that Qubbet el Hawa is a mix of ethnics. Although the majority of the population was Mediterranean, let's say Egyptians, we have also two more ethnic groups living there. There was no a social difference between these groups. For example, we have pieces of evidence that show that the highest officials and the members of their families were, for example, dark skin. So, and that doesn't mean that they were inferior, as in the modern Europe happened with the black people. And to be Egyptian was basically just to speak in Egyptian, to behave as an Egyptian, and to be buried as an Egyptian.
And now you also teach at the University of Jaén and lead the university's chair of Egyptology. How do you integrate the results of Qubbet el Hawa into your teaching and public outreach?
It's amazing when you are teaching Egyptology or Near Eastern archaeology, to show to your students your experience on the field, because you might be a perfect scholar just working in the libraries, but if you have not lived for a long period in Egypt, you cannot understand many aspects that later you are going to translate into the text, or perhaps it's going to give you a wider view about this. So to me, it's very important that the students can feel that we have something more to teach them from our experience.
And what role does student training play in the project? Are there opportunities for young researchers to participate in the excavation or related studies?
Till now, what we have been we have been very selective with those students that have collaborated with us in the excavation. Basically, because we wanted to offer them non-published material to develop their PhD thesis. So it needs a certain commitment about them. It's not just to, I'm going to Egypt to have the opportunity or the experience to excavate there for 6 weeks. No, it's not this. It's a commitment that you are going there to work in the material and to offer us your interpretation about this material. And this is going to be a long process that it lasts for 4 or 5 years. So, and this is the way that I think that we have to continue. Unfortunately, I'm not God, and I cannot publish everything that I have discovered, and I do not have the knowledge. So what we are trying is to create a specialist in different kind of material culture or landscape, religious, funerary religion, or different topics.
I understand that nobody can know about everything, absolutely. So you need specialists in different topics to collaborate together, to work together as a team, publish step by step all your findings. And from your point of view, what are the biggest challenges facing archaeological missions in Egypt today, whether logistical, academic, or ethical?
Well, I do not think that we do have great problems of ethic in Egyptology. I think that we have two major challenges. The first one is to add a bit more to deep in the areas that we have already begun to know. Let's say to increase the knowledge of something. That perhaps if we are just working in a single tomb in a very well-known necropolis, it is difficult to add some new or fresh information. And the second challenge would be the funding, always. With all the archaeological missions, we need funds. So if you are interested to collaborate with me or with any mission, contact the head of the mission, and we will be very happy to attend you. And the third great challenge that we have is the modern analysis of some of different materials. Unfortunately, we do not have the possibility to take any kind of sample out of Egypt. And that means that we need to do every single analysis or on the field or in the labs that are in Egypt. Unfortunately, nowadays, it's quite expensive to carry out essential and basic analysis, as for example DNA. And I'm sure that the results of the DNA, when generalized in the future, are going to show us a different pictures that we have about ancient Egypt.
Have you felt like your job in Egypt, since you started with the mission back in 2008, I think it was, has it changed a lot? Are things easier, more difficult? Because it's been a really long time. So how was it at the beginning and how is it now?
Well, I didn't find any great changes. I have been very lucky always with the collaboration with the local office of the Supreme Council of Antiquities. We understand that we are on the same boat, that we are going in the same direction. And if you have the support of the local office, everything, well, you can have years that you don't discover great things, other years that you discover the best, the discovery of your life. But the best is to return home saying, I have no problem. So this is the best.
And finally, what would you say to young people dreaming of working in Egypt as you do? What kind of skills or mindset should they cultivate?
Well, it's difficult to say, to talk about skills with the development of technologies, artificial intelligence, and so on. So I don't know what to say then. But and in reality, if you want to work in a archaeological excavation in Egypt, it's not necessary that you study Egyptology, because now archaeologists need the help of different disciplines. We have in our team engineers, we have architects, we have restorers. So many geologists, we have many disciplines that are collaborating with us. But if you want to study Egyptology, basically it's a long career. It is a career that you need to be funded by someone, or if you are rich, alhamdulillah, but probably you will need funds, and to get funds, you have to have high marks in the school and the university. And at the end, you are going to work in the human science, and that means that you have to develop your critic, and you have to read a lot to have the base of the knowledge, and in order to use it during the fieldwork.
It's a very wide topic of specialization. So, well, this is my personal library, and it's quite big. It's all about Egyptology. You have your library in the background too. Are you at the university now?
Only a part.
So it's a really tough career, but I think if you feel the passion, it's worth it. Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope to have you back soon. Maybe next season we can discuss how it was and your future projects. Thank you very much, Alejandro.
Thank you.
If you have enjoyed this journey into the ancient tombs of Qubbet el Hawa, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You'll find more interviews on this channel with Egyptologists working both in archaeological excavations and in museums, uncovering the past and preserving it for the future. Join us!